الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وفقها في الدين يا رب العالمين، وألحقنا بعبادك الصالحين. اللهم فقهنا في الدين، اللهم فقهنا في الدين، اللهم فقهنا في الدين، آمين يا رب العالمين. يقول الله عز وجل: يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم، فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله والرسول إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر، ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا. ويقول الله عز وجل: من يطيع الرسول فقد أطاع الله. ويقول الله عز وجل في موضع آخر: وما آتاكم الرسول فخذوه وما نهاكم عنه فانتهوا. These are a couple of the verses which necessitate us to follow Quran and Hadith. Quran and Sunnah. Specifically Sunnah, not just Hadith. Okay? As we'll go through, inshallah. This is a new book that we've advertised everywhere, alhamdulillah. And it's a great book in the Hanafi madhab from a later scholar. Okay, this is from a later scholar. This scholar passed away 1304, is it? 1304. Okay, those who have the book, inshallah, can correct me. 1322. Yeah? So approximately 100 years ago. Okay? Approximately 100 years ago. When they mention these dates, they mention according to the Hijri calendar. Now today is going to be an introduction lesson to this, so we understand the background of why the scholar wrote this book. Okay? This book is a very, very important book for Hanafi students, especially Hanafi students that are struggling to understand Hadith. Why? Because there's a huge conflict amongst certain scholars of Hadith and the Hanafi madhab. It looks like apparently. Okay? It looks like apparently. This is why the ulama, the fuqaha had their style of methodology in Hadith, in accepting Hadith. And muhaddithin, they had a different style. They were critical in regards to chains, but the fuqaha were more critical in regards to whom the Hadith was taken from. You understand? Big difference, massive difference. Whom the hadith is taken from is very important, extremely important. If the person himself that is narrating the hadith, if he memorized it since the time he heard it, exactly word for word, letter for letter, and then relaying it year after year, exactly with the same letters, same wordings, and the meanings as well. It was a condition for many of the fuqaha of the Hanafiya that meanings, the person who narrated his narrations, he must understand the fiqhi rulings behind it, all the perspectives, all the angles of each and every single hadith. If that wasn't met, then majority of the Hanafi scholars wouldn't take hadith. Just from a person who barely offers the hadith on a face value in the sense of a literal hadith. Okay? That's why you see this conflict when you just start reading hadith. When you start reading Bukhari, for example. A lot of brothers, alhamdulillah, they have the courage, they've heard a lot of motivational speakers, and they've went and bought Bukhari Sharif. They've went and bought Muslim Sharif. These are great books, mashallah. But these books are specifically for the ulama. These are not for normal people that haven't studied 8 years of background. You need at least 6 to 8 years of background before going into those books. Okay? If you start opening those books and start reading those books, you're going to think like this is full of contradictions. Okay? This is going to make you more confused in religion. And in fact, for some people, it might be a turning point and they might say, I need to leave this religion. Okay? Na'udhu billah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect one and all. But books were, you must understand why books were written and which books are for who. Okay? Not all books are written for anyone and everyone. So this is extremely important, inshallah. So I made that clear, inshallah. The book itself, the translation that we have in front of us is by Turath Publications. Very nice print, extremely nice print. Those who can buy this book, buy this book. There is no other way to describe this book. This is an amazing book. Even the footnotes, alhamdulillah, they haven't included all the footnotes of Allama Nimawi, the scholar of the Hadith book. Here, approximately, there's 1,000 narrations, just over 1,000 narrations. So a lot of people go through Riyadh al-Salihin, a lot of people go through Adab al-Mufrad, many other books, which are acclaimed books, which are accepted books. Alhamdulillah, we are going through books which are relating to fiqh of tahara and fiqh of tahara and salah. This is only the chapters that Allama Nimawi could complete before his death. He started on the chapter of zakat, but he passed away before, and those pages are not of such significance. Therefore, the printer didn't seem to print it with this book. But we have the full chapter on tahara, on cleanliness and purification, and we have the full chapter of salah and their proofs from hadith and from narrations of the sahaba, the narrations of the tabi'een, the narrations of the atba'ut tabi'een. Okay, so this is clearly to show that the Hanafi madhab has firm proofs from the Salafus Salihin. Hanafi madhab is not based on someone's ideas, someone's opinions, like many propagate and many think. Okay, we'll clearly see, inshallah, when we start the book. What is a hadith? Hadith is a statement of Rasulullah. He said something, or he done something, an action of Rasulullah, or he saw something, but he didn't prohibit that action. Okay, it's called taqreer. Sharia is called taqreer. So he saw something and he didn't say anything. He just left it, meaning it's not it's allowed. Because if it was haram, then he would have immediately stopped the person. He might have a personal dislike. That's a different thing. You understand? He might see Khalid bin Walid eating a lizard, or a type of a lizard, iguana, and he didn't speak. He just sat quietly. It's his personal dislike. He didn't eat from it. It wasn't Rasulullah's habit to eat from such a thing, from such a creature. So therefore, this was his personal thing. He didn't eat. So this is what is called a hadith. This is what is called a hadith. Athar. So athar is narrations, traditions from the Sahaba. It can be from the Sahaba, it can be from the Tabi'een, and it can also be hadith as well. Okay, it includes all. That's why you see books like Sharh Ma'ani al-Athar, Mushkil al-Athar of Imam Tahawi. When they say Mushkil al-Athar, they mean all the traditions from hadith, from statements of Sahaba, from the opinions also from the Sahabas, the opinions of the fatwas of the Tabi'een as well. Okay, because this plays a major role in our Sharia in order to understand how the madhab comes about, why the madhabs comes about in such a way. Sahabas, they went and stayed in so many countries they went off to. Okay, China, you have mosques that were built 1,300, 400 years ago. The history of China is absolutely amazing. How much of history of China do we know? Nothing. Next to nothing, to say the truth. How much of history of Turkish do we know? Next to nothing. Hundreds of thousands, millions of scholars that passed by in Turkey. Samarkand, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, all those different countries. Hundreds of thousands of scholars throughout history. Many of them we don't have any idea of. Many of them, they didn't get that fame and name. Allama Nimawi, he was lucky. He became one of the famous. He became one of the famous. And the Indian subcontinent, alhamdulillah, there are certain scholars that outdone the Arabs in many ways. In many, many ways. This is why they were put to the pedestal of Medina Munawwara in order to teach from there. In order to teach, the ulama like Maulana Zakaria Kandahlawi, he was given the same author that some of those criticized Fadail A'mal. He was given the seat on Medina Munawwara to teach for 16 years Sahih al-Bukhari. Imagine what kind of a Sheikh al-Hadith he was. Even the Arabs could not compete. So this is to say that just like 60, 70, 80 years ago, there was no difference between an Arab scholar and an Indian scholar. Indian scholar was also a scholar. Arab scholar was also a scholar. Mauritanian scholar was also a scholar. Tunisian scholar was also a scholar. Okay? So I think now, in this 50 years, they've made a greater distinction between, oh, you've come from Deoband. You come from here and you come from there and you're not an Arab and you're an Arab. They made a distinction now, I think. This 50 years, it's more distinct, if you want to say. Whereas before, it wasn't the case. Some Sahabas, as we know, they attended Rasulullah's lectures non-stop, continuously. They had the companionship like this, non-stop. Whereas other Sahabas, they attended some lectures, they didn't attend others. So they heard things which Others didn't. You understand? Whereas a person who had non-stop companionship, he had more. He definitely had more. And he retained more, most likely as well. Like Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, his companionship was only for 3 to 4 years. But that 3 to 4 years was in Ahlul Sufa, was there. Was right next to the Masjid al-Nabawi. So he was a full-time student. Not just full-time student, he was a 24-hour student. Okay? Intensive full-time student. So the amount of ahadiths he was able to narrate, no other Sahaba could narrate. Okay? So retaining those ahadith, alhamdulillah, Allah gave him a powerful memory because of the dua of Rasulullah. Because of the specific dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam on Abu Hurairah. So certain companions had certain abilities as well. Like Zayd ibn Thabit, he was only 17 years old when Rasulullah died. 17 years old when Rasulullah died. But he was a faqih. He was a mufti of the highest caliber. In fact, some of the Sahabas, when it came to, those who say, why do we follow opinion? Why do we follow a madhab? Even the Sahabas followed a madhab. Some of the Sahabas, they went to Ibn Abbas, they took Ibn Abbas gave a fatwa. Then they went to Zayd ibn Thabit. Zayd ibn Thabit gave another fatwa. They're like, we won't take the fatwa of Ibn Abbas over the fatwa of Zayd ibn Thabit. Zayd ibn Thabit is much more knowledgeable to us. That's who they accept. Yeah, that's who they accept. Than Ibn Abbas. In this case, not to say Ibn Abbas, his rank is any less. Ibn Abbas is great. Okay? But just to put it straight, that even the Sahabas knew whom to take from and whom not to take from. And if an opinion differed, then whom to take from. Okay? So there was, even amongst the Sahaba, there was a rank, if you want to say, a rank of understanding of those Sahabas that were outdoing others. Okay? So this we must understand very well before we start, inshallah. This book was written under the supervision of Allama Anwar Shah Kashmiri. They say he's a walking, talking library of Deoband. He was a walking, talking library of Deoband. The Darul Ulum Deoband that we have in India, where everything started 150 years ago, approximately, or 200 years ago, everything started from there. Alhamdulillah, they had luminaries coming out. Such scholars that history hasn't seen. History hasn't even seen. Okay? Alhamdulillah, Allah has given them such abilities, and they dedicated their whole lives. And Allah gave them abilities which were unseen, to say the truth, except from the time of maybe Imam Bukhari. Allama Anwar Shah Kashmiri, he was such an individual where if he were to read one page, that would be photographic memory for the rest of his life. For the next 40 years, he doesn't need to see this page ever again. He can tell you word for word, letter for letter, in Arabic. In Arabic, the hardest books, like Hidayah. The commentaries of Hidayah, not just Hidayah, the commentaries of Hidayah. Hidayah, we struggle to even recite the text of Hidayah. Whereas he's memorized the commentaries of Hidayah, word for word, letter for letter, including every single page. And you tell him to read from this page, he'll read you like a Hafiz. This is unbelievable. To most people, this in our time, 100 years ago, a person wouldn't believe such a thing. A person would not believe such an incident. But those who accompanied him, like Allama Nimawi, like this muhaddith that we're studying the book from, he, all the way through, he take bit by bit, he took from this book and he showed it to Allama Anwar Shah Kashmiri. Allama Anwar Shah Kashmiri, the book that we have in front of us is Faidul Bari by Anwar Shah Kashmiri. It was his dictations on the commentary of Sahih al-Bukhari. Absolutely amazing, phenomenal book. Faidul Bari. Absolutely phenomenal book. There's points inside there that you will never find in any commentary written previously in the 1,000 years. Okay? This is how much I can guarantee you this book. Absolutely phenomenal. Very short commentary. It's not too long. It's not too exhaustive. It's not like Umdatul Qari. Umdatul Qari is huge, 26 volumes. Fathul Bari is 20 volumes approximately. Huge books. Whereas Faidul Bari is only 8 volumes. But the precious notes that is inside there, it cannot be found in Umdatul Qari and Fathul Bari combined. Allahu Akbar. So this is the types of gems that the ulama of Deoband, the Darul Ulum Deoband has produced. Alhamdulillah. His sheikh, who was his sheikh? His main sheikh in ilm was Abdul Hayy al-Laknawi. Abdul Hayy al-Laknawi is known as one of the greatest hadith scholars in the past century. Abdul Hayy al-Laknawi was his specific sheikh in knowledge. in his Tarbiyah, Fadlur Rahman Muradabadi. He was of the greatest caliber of Tasawwuf and Tazkiyah. From Silsila of Tasawwuf, of Sufiya. He took the sanad from Fadlur Rahman Muradabadi. There's many other scholars from the Indian subcontinent that wrote, because this slogan kept on going and going and going, and this was at the peak. 100 years ago, this was at the peak. And even now, we are suffering the same consequences. Everyone continuously, these Saudi scholars or those who come from whichever background, first thing they start doing is to demonize Hanafi madhab. Demonize the Hanafi madhab. Hanafi madhab was the first madhab. And it has the majority of followers throughout history. In every single time of history, the Hanafis were no less than all three madhabs combined. If you combine all three madhabs in each and every single generation, each and every single 50 years apart, I'm telling you, if you geographically assess, analyze from time to time, and the Hanafi madhab was no less in each and every single era, no less compared to all three madhabs combined. Alhamdulillah, Hanafi madhab always had, it still has the greatest amount of followers. Alhamdulillah. And this is a clear proof of the acceptance of Imam Abu Hanifa. This is a very clear proof of the acceptance of Imam Abu Hanifa and his students. We can't forget his students. His students done the greatest job of compiling his madhab, of collecting his madhab, of propagating his madhab, of becoming jurists and lawyers and solicitors, those who want to understand it their way, and then becoming supreme judges, chief justice, Qadi al-Qudat, the first ever in history, Abu Yusuf, the greatest student of Imam Abu Hanifa, the first title that any person got of Qadi al-Qudat with Abu Yusuf. There is no other human in history that got that title. Al-Qadi al-Qudat, the judge of all judges. The judge of all judges. Subhanallah. So, Allama Nimawi, he himself wrote a commentary on the hadiths on this book. A commentary, a brief commentary, and then another commentary. Okay, here it mentions Ta'liq al-Hasan ala athar sunan, and then a Ta'liq al-Ta'liq as well upon that. Okay, so commentary and then a commentary upon commentary. Here, the authors that translated this, they only give us those comments that are necessary for us to understand those specific ahadith, and those ahadiths that are disputed. He himself, if you go to page 21, you go to page 21, he himself says, the servant of prophetic hadith, Muhammad bin Ali al-Nimawi, says, this is a collection of hadith and traditions and a collection of narrations. So what did we say? Hadith. Hadith is hadith, here specifically referring to the hadith of Rasulullah. And traditions here referring to the traditions of the Sahaba and the traditions of the Tabi'een, more specifically here. And the collection of narrations and glad tidings. I have chosen from Sahih, Sunan, Mu'jam, Musnad collections. Subhanallah. So this, he tried to look over all the books of hadith that are existent in his time, which is a great selection. Sahih is, for example, Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih al-Muslim, for example, Sahih ibn Khuzaymah, for example, Sahih ibn Hibban. These are books which are known for the ahadith that are Sahih. Then you have the collections which are Sunan. Sunan meaning that those ahadith books that were written according to the fiqhi chapters. This is what's named as Sunan. Like, for example, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah. Those ones are called Sunan. Sunan Ibn Majah, Sunan al-Nasa'i, Sunan, because they're written according to the fiqhi chapters. Mu'jam normally, like Mu'jam al-Tabarani, he's got three, Mu'jam al-Kabir, Mu'jam al-Awsat, and Mu'jam al-Saghir. Those three books he generally wrote according to his sheikhs. Some of them are alphabetically listed as well. Most of them are alphabetically listed. And then you have Musnad. Musnad is according to the Sahabas. Sometimes it's alphabetically, sometimes it depends according to the status of Sahaba. So, for example, Musnad Imam Ahmad, I'm sure you've heard of that one. Musnad Imam Ahmad is one of the greatest books ever written in history. So, Musnad Imam Ahmad, He's also gone through all the masanid. So Musnad al-Bazzar, Musnad, so many musnads there are, alhamdulillah. You know, so he's gone through all those hadith books in order to collect for us the gems which correlate to us. Not now, there's something to mention, okay, as a student of knowledge, that this book is not just specifically a hadith is for the Hanafi madhab. Okay, a person does need some background in Hanafi fiqh. Okay, if you don't have some background in Hanafi fiqh, you're going to look at a hadith is here and you're going to be a bit confused. You're going to be like, this is, we've never studied this in fiqh, you know. So this it might confuse you as a beginner, but don't be confused, because these hadiths sometimes he brings in order to show the inauthenticity and sometimes to show the weakness, the defectiveness, the illah in that hadith, and he's going to prove through hadith masters what illah is inside that hadith. Sometimes the hadith can be narrated in Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, Nasa'i, and Ibn Majah. All 6 books, but it's defective. It's defective. Now you will not know. A normal muhaddith will not know sometimes. A faqih will know. A faqih will know. This is why we follow fuqaha. As we'll see, inshallah, let us start, inshallah. Sheikh, here, small biography has been given about him. His name is Sheikh Muhammad. Sheikh Muhammad. His kunya was Abul Khair, the father of all goodness. He was best known as Tahir Ahsan, and Nimawi is the place that he came from. It's next to Azimabad in India. He was born in the beginning day of Wednesday on Jumad al-Ula 1278 after Hijrah. Okay, 1278 after Hijrah. Then we skip, inshallah. Here he mentions his. Okay, we'll skip this, inshallah. Okay, those who got the book can read that part. I'm not going to read that part. He's got many other books. That but have been less famous. Okay, he's got a book on why we say the Ameen softly. So he gathers all the ahadiths, those that are to do with Ameen loudly, and all those ahadith to do with Ameen softly, and he gathers them all and he reconciles between all, and why he says what he says. You understand why the Hanafi madhab prefers the hadiths that say the Ameen should be said silently, or like, you know, less thing. You must say it. Some people don't even say it. That's the problem. Some people don't know that they have to say it. They have to say it. You should be able to say it in such an extent where your ears can hear yourself. No, you can hear yourself. It has to come out. The sunnah is definitely to say it, but not to say it loudly, according to the Hanafis. And then he's got a whole book on Raf'ul Yadayn. Why we choose not to do Raf'ul Yadayn. Got a whole book specifically dedicated on the evidences of Raf'ul Yadayn of the Hanafi madhab. Okay, and many other books he's got also, alhamdulillah. Here he says all those hadiths that are mentioned in Sahihain, there's no need. In Bukhari and Muslim, there's no need for us to further expand on the authentication, because they're already authentic. Okay, all those books that I quote that are not from Sahihain, I will give my own opinion, meaning I will give the opinions of the scholars of hadith. The scholars of hadith, what they said about this narrator and that narrator, and the reasons for that hadith being sahih or not sahih. Okay? And some of the books that they used here on page 19 at the bottom of those who have the book, they've referred to from all those great books. Tahdhibul Kamal of Al-Mizzi, Allama Al-Mizzi. And Ibn Hajar's books, Tahdhib al-Tahdhib, Taqrib al-Tahdhib, Talkhis al-Habir, they're great books. These are absolutely great books for students of knowledge, especially students of knowledge that are dedicated to hadith. These are must books. You must have them inside your library. Okay? Unfortunately, nowadays, what we do, we have the laptop. It destroys everything. It destroys everything. We just search on, we go straight to Taqrib al-Tahdhib or Tahdhib al-Tahdhib and we go and search there, unfortunately. But what we're supposed to be doing is actually going through the books. This is a complete different benefit. When we studied, alhamdulillah, when we were studying back then, 10 years ago, the beauty of studying from the book is amazing, because you won't just learn that specific thing that you're looking for. Whereas search engine will give you straight to the place that you're going for, you know. Whereas a book, you actually have to sift pages after pages sometimes. Even through the index, you can't totally locate it fully, okay? Sometimes the even index is not accurate when it comes to the paging. So you end up learning so much in that one search. Alhamdulillah. Okay, and then other books like Nasbur Raya of Imam Az-Zayla'i. Imam Az-Zayla'i was one of the greatest Hanafi pioneers of Islam. Okay, he was the one that done the takhrij, the sourcing of all the hadiths that are quoted in Kitabul Hidayah. Everyone knows the Kitabul Hidayah in the Hanafi madhab, one of the greatest books. No one can become an alim. No one can become an alim without studying Kitabul Hidayah. Okay, it's a must. It's a must. In fact, those who didn't complete the full Hidayah from cover to cover, they have to do it as a prerequisite to the Mufti course. Okay, in South Africa, I'm saying. I don't know about the Mufti courses here in UK. It might be different. Allahu A'lam. Then he also mentions Tarikhul Islam and Siyar A'lamul Nubala. These two books of Imam al-Dhahabi are gold. Gold mines. If you want to know the history of Islam and the incidences of the greatest of the great people that lived in the first seven centuries of Islam, then you must know these books. You must go through these books if you know Arabic. Tarikhul Islam of Allama Dhahabi, of Hafidh al-Dhahabi, and Siyar A'lamul Nubala. Siyar A'lamul Nubala, the biographies of those noble people in the first 7 centuries, in the first 7 centuries of Islam. Absolutely amazing works. Absolutely amazing works. And he also refers to Mustadrak al-Hakim and Nailul Awtar of Shawkani. Allama Hafidh al-Shawkani is also included in that. Nailul Awtar. As an introduction to the book, inshallah, I wanted to mention a couple more things in order to get us started. Okay, get us started. I'll say this because when a person goes into this field, he thinks that this field is plain hadith. Okay, and this is a deception from shaitan. This is a deception from shaitan. Why? The evidence is one part of it is hadith. One part of it is hadith and how a scholar understands that hadith. The angles that he looks at in order to assess that narration. Accepting narration is one thing. Then the meaning, extraction of the meaning of what can be deduced and what cannot be deduced, that is another thing. On top of that, the verses of the Quran. On top of that, he has to look at ijma'. On top of that, he has to look at qiyas. Okay, if the mas'ala is not discussed, then he has to look at qiyas. He has to analyze between something that was already there and something that is present now. This is why our Sharia is universal. It can be applied to any place and any time. It's not limited to Rasulullah's time and the Sahaba's time. Our Quran is unlimited in that sense, in the sense that our ulama, that's why the first verse I quoted here is Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. Yeah, all those who believe, follow Allah and follow Rasulullah and those who are in authority. Now, this is in regards to religion specifically. Okay, this is specifically speaking about religion. So those who are the muftis, those who are the mujtahideen of the ummah. So, inshallah, let's go through a small background of how we should understand an approach to the madhabs. Why our approach is this way, okay? Why our approach is not accepting anything and everything, you know, or mixed masala, as I like to call it, okay? One of the greatest students of Ibn Abbas, so he is a great tabi'i. Anyone who met a sahabi is called a tabi'i. Imam Mujahid, one of the greatest students of Ibn Abbas in tafsir, he says it is not permissible for anyone having iman in Allah and the last day to make a statement in the book of Allah if he is not well versed in the various expressions of the Arabs. So this is the first condition. There are 15 sciences that a scholar must master. A scholar must master, and he must be an expert of, a pro, a professional to the highest degree, if he wants to have a say in religion. So definitely not us. Okay? Definitely not any of us here. Which are these 15 sciences we're going to go through? Number one is language, as Imam Mujahid said, and this is from the statement of the Tabi'een. This is not the statement of some scholar that lived in 7th century or some scholar that lived in 14th century. No, this is from the Tabi'een, directly from the Salafus Salihin. Okay, Imam Mujahid is saying it is not permissible for anyone that believes in Allah and the last day to make a statement, to make a tafsir of the book of Allah, of a verse, one verse of the Quran. It is not allowed for a person to do unless he is well versed in the expressions of the Arabs. Okay, you have to understand when something is said, how do the Arabs understand it? How did the classical Arabs understand that statement? This is language. First one is language, yes. The second one is sarf. What's the root of that word? Arabic, everything happens according to roots. Everything happens according to roots. If you don't know the roots of the word, you're going to be making blunders, huge mistakes. And everyone's going to laugh at you. Okay? Everyone's going to laugh at you. And Allama Sabuni, Sheikh Muhammad Alias Sabuni, he gives us example in Tibyan fi Ulum al-Quran, mashallah, amazing example. You know, يَوْمَ نَدْعُو كُلَّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِمْ. We'll go through that one day, inshallah. Anyway, that's just a student. For those who know Arabic, that's your homework, inshallah. Go to Tibyan fi Ulum al-Quran and check up what Allama Sheikh Sabuni says on that verse. Number three is morphology. Number two was sarf, morphology. Number three is nahu, Arabic grammar. And I'll give you another example. This is your homework for those who are students that are listening, okay, on my YouTube, inshallah. أكلت السمكة حتى رأسها حتى رأسها حتى رأسها. Complete three different meanings. Same line, same sentence. Okay, same sentence. I ate the fish with its head. Yeah, complete different meanings. Your homework to go and find out. أكلت السمكة حتى رأسها حتى رأسها حتى رأسها. Huge difference in meaning. Completely changes everything. So hadith as well, same thing. You change the endings of one word, you can completely make the whole line, misunderstand the whole line. Very dangerous. Very, very, very dangerous. It's like Quran. براءة من الله ورسوله إلى الذين عاهدتم من المشركين فسيحوا في الأرض 4 أشهر واعلموا أنكم غير معجز الله وأن الله مخزي الكافرين وأذان من الله ورسوله إلى الناس يوم الحج الأكبر أن الله بريء من المشركين ورسوله. It's supposed to be ورسوله. Someone said ورسوله. Another Bedouin, he said, I distance myself from Rasulullah. It's the meaning. You're reciting wrong. You change the whole meaning. You change the whole meaning by one fatha and one kasra. Huge misunderstanding. So this, who will understand? Person who's fully grounded in Arabic language will only understand that. Not just Arabs nowadays. Arabs nowadays, most of them don't know Arabic. They never studied Arabic, never studied Nahu, never studied Sarf. How many of us, those who didn't do A-levels and a degree, bachelor's degree in English, how many of us studied grammar? What grammar did we study in GCSEs? Nothing. Zero. Zella Bangalia coin. Kurat team. Isn't it? So this is the same thing. With the Arabs, it's the same thing. They don't know nothing. Why? They never understood. They never studied. They never studied the grammar of the language. So they're useless. When it comes to saying that, oh, he's become a sheikh. Become a sheikh reading which grammar books first? Quote the books of grammar that you've studied and how much have you understood of those grammar books? Okay? So grammar comes, Arabic language comes first. Second is sarf. Third is Arabic grammar. And then ilmul ishtiqaq is another, it's like ilmul tasrif. Very similar to ilmul tasrif. Very similar to sarf. Ishtiqaq. Okay? Ishtiqaq is also finding the roots, knowing the roots of the words of the Arabic language. That's separate to sarf. Yes. Like, you know, in the Indian subcontinent, we call it ilmus sigha. Ilmus sigha. They also use it in Arabic. Ilmus sigha, they use it in Arabic. But in the Indian madrasas, the Dars al-Nizami syllabuses, they call it ilmus sigha. Normally, it's taught in the 3rd, 4th year. Okay? 3rd year, normally. Sarf is taught in first year, second year. Nahu is taught in first year, second year, third year. Sometimes in fourth year, alhamdulillah, those madrasas that are, a bit more advanced. Ilm al-ishtiqaq, yeah. What you can derive from those roots, okay? What you can derive from those roots. Then the next 5, 6, and 7. So majority of this, if you can see here, from the 15 subjects, majority of it is Arabic language. 5, 6, and 7 is to do with ilm al-balagha. Balagha is eloquence of the Arabic language, like poetry and all that stuff, and how to correlate, how to understand poetry, okay? Stanzas and all this. Alhamdulillah. Ilm al-badi', ilm al-ma'ani, and ilm al-bayan are all three under balagha. So all three of these branches are under balagha. So a person must understand balagha. Without balagha, a person he cannot understand the language of the Arabs. He cannot. No way. A person who hasn't studied balagha, he will not understand Arabic language. No way. So balagha is extremely, extremely, extremely important science. And unfortunately, because of time, lack of time, Allahu Alam, time isn't given to these subjects. Okay? Time needs to be given to these subjects. These subjects are very, very integral subjects when it comes to studying the deen. And a student of knowledge must focus his best to understand these three subjects. Okay, these three, especially these three: ilm al-ba'ani, ilm al-badi', and ilm al-bayan. Then we go on to qira'ah, the 10 qira'at that are accepted. Okay, and as well as the 4 qira'at which are shad qira'at. The qira'at are necessary in order to understand the verses of the Quran thoroughly. Okay, because Maliki Yawmiddin, slight difference in meaning. Owner and king is not the same. Owner and king is not the same. Has a greater meaning. Owner has a greater meaning than king. So the qira'ah, ilmul qira'at, is a necessity upon the mufassir, upon who wants to make a statement on the verse of the Quran. Nowadays, what we do, what scholars do, we relay what the scholars have already written inside their books. That's our job. Our job is not to come and make ijtihad in the verses of the Quran. That's why when a normal person says, oh, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this, his understanding might be deficient, might be problematic. That's why we don't recommend a person just says that Allah said this or Rasulullah said this, because your understanding might be deficient. Yes, Rasulullah said it. In what context? How did he say it? When did he say it? Why did he say it? This is what you need to know before just saying, oh, there's a verse of the Quran that says this and this and this. So be very careful in quoting a verse of the Quran or hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then we go on to number 9, usuluddin, beliefs, aqidah. Your aqidah must be correct. If your aqidah isn't correct, then you're going to be taking out verses of the Quran and you're going to start interpreting it into loads of weird things. You're going to become an anthropomorphist, isn't it? You're going to become a mujassim, a person who makes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into like a body form with hands, feet, and legs, and shins and feet. You're going to end up into a person who starts likening Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to like a body, which is absolutely against the ijma' of all the scholars in history. Ijma', absolute ijma' of all from the beginning until the last scholars, is absolutely against the ijma' of all the scholars. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a body, he cannot be a body, he doesn't have body parts. It's against all the aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. That's the aqidah of the Christians. That's not the aqidah of Muslims. Then we go on to usulul fiqh. Usulul fiqh is the greatest, of course, when it comes to understanding the verses of the Quran. Usulul fiqh, majority of the part, if you go through the chapter of Quran, majority of it is Arabic language. Nurul Anwar, those who've gone through Nurul Anwar, majority of it is Arabic language. The details of the Arabic language is such that it goes into every single branch. It goes into every single branch. It has to. That's the purpose of deducing laws and understanding verses. Then we have, so that's number 10. Number 11 is the Asbabun Nuzul. Asbabun Nuzul, the reasons of revelation, why this verse was revealed. Okay? Number 12 is Nasikh and Mansukh, what's abrogated and what's abrogating, what's cancelled and what's cancelling. Okay? Which verses, sometimes there's verses of the Quran that we read until now, today, that are abrogated verses. You can't apply. It's there for recitation, it's there for rewards. Yes, alhamdulillah, you'll get rewards. It's part of the Quran. But the verse meaning is not taken into consideration because why? It's abrogated. It cannot be applied. It cannot be applied. It's through Allah's wisdom. Why? Allah's wisdom. Allahu Alam. Allah knows why. Allah knows why he kept certain verses of the Quran and he didn't keep other. There's other verses that were revealed, but they are taken out of the Quran. Okay, but the actions like Rajam, the verse of Rajam, is taken out of the Quran. Doesn't exist. The verse of stoning doesn't exist in the Quran anymore. At the time of revelation, it existed, but at the time of Rasulullah's last compilation, when Jibreel alayhi salam came to revise the whole Quran, it was taken out. It wasn't included in Surah An-Nur. It wasn't included in Surah An-Nur. So we don't recite it, but we act upon it according to our laws. According to our laws. So there's many verses like that. So a person must be very, very, very careful in regards to this field. Nasikh and Mansukh. Remember these words. Nasikh and Mansukh. Then we go on to number 13, which is fiqh, general fiqh. Number 14, those ahadith which explain the unclear verses of the Quran. There's some majority of the verses of the Quran are clear verses, muhkam. Majority of the verses are muhkam verses, clear verses. They don't need much explanation. But then there's other verses of ahkam that require expansion, require explanation, require commentary from an expert that understands the Sharia holistically and in totality. Okay, in totality, not just parts of the Sharia. He has to understand it in totality. So, and the last one that the ulama mentioned is gifted knowledge. Those who act upon what they know. This is called gifted knowledge. It's those who act upon what they know and what they have learnt in Sharia. And this is according to the a'mal of the person. This is why the four madhabs and the four imams got such acceptance like none other in history. Like none other in history. Imam Ahmad, he was asked the question, if a person memorizes 100,000 hadith, can he become a mujtahid? Can he become a person that can deduce laws from Quran and hadith? Can he make a statement on the verse of the Quran? Can he make a statement on the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam if he memorized 100,000 hadiths with the sanad? Show me one Salafi in the world, guaranteed, wallahi guaranteed. Not one Salafi in the world has memorized 100,000 hadith. Not once, even the Sheikh, Bin Baz, Uthaymeen, all included, all combined. Combine all of them in one. Not close to 100,000 hadith. Bin Baz, Uthaymeen, Albani, and Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab combined haven't memorized 100,000 hadith. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal this is with the chain of narration, not just memorizing the matan. No, memorizing with the sanad, full sanad, complete sanad, full chain of narration, full chain of transmission. Imam Ahmad was questioned, if a person memorizes 100,000 hadiths with its chains, does he have the authority to become a mujtahid? Imam Ahmad says directly no. 200,000? No. 300,000? No. Big no. 400,000? He made an ishara like this. That maybe. 400,000 hadiths with its chain of narration. And then you say Imam Abu Hanifa, who is agreed upon the whole ummah, consensus according to the whole ummah from the first person to the last person from scholarship. I'm talking about scholars. I'm not talking about normal people that go on YouTube and start shouting this and that. No, I'm talking about scholars from the first person in history to the last person in history of scholars, Islamic scholarship. Everyone accepted Imam Abu Hanifa to be an imam, mujtahid, mutlaq imam. An absolute mujtahid imam. Him being the imam that he is, they claim that he didn't know this many hadiths. That if he didn't know this many hadith, this 400,000 hadith is a bare minimum requisite. It's a requisite. No, you have requisites before you go into Oxford. You got requisites before you go to Queen Mary. Yes, this is a requisite for a mujtahid, and this is the maybe as well. 400,000 is a maybe. So what was the knowledge of Imam Abu Hanifa? What was the knowledge of Imam Malik? What was the knowledge of Imam? This is because many a time people underestimate who these individuals were. You have to understand Allah created them. It's not that they are who they are. No, Allah created them for a purpose. Same with Imam Bukhari, photographic memory. You tell him any chain, he'll give you that chain, the wrong chain, the right chain, the wrong chains that exist all around the different countries as well. Absolutely phenomenal, unbelievable. Nowadays, you will not believe, it's unbelievable. Because memory power, we just don't have it. Because of our short memory span, we don't have it. We just don't have it. Our Ustad used to make us memorize what 40 hadiths here and there. He used to forget. By the end of the term, after you do the exam, gone. How many hadiths retain? Maybe 20? The other 20 is gone. And this is without the sanad. This is just عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه, عن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه, عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه, عن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنه. That's it. It's gone. So we are not even scholars. We are not even the dust of scholars. Okay? We are not even the dust of scholars. We just taste, like tasting the mishti. We just taste that cake, the top of the cake. That's it. That's all we're doing. So there's no way that we can compare anyone from our times or anyone from the past 200 years as sheikhs that have coming out and big names and big fame. We can't compare these law to what the ulama were produced in the first couple of centuries of Islam. So that's another incident of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, just to make you understand the greatness of knowledge that existed at that time. Were the mujtahideen only four at the time of the tabi'een? Were they only four? Were they only four imams? No. They were great imams, and they had their own madhabs. But the madhabs died out. The madhabs died out. These four remained because their students kept on preserving that madhab. Preserving, refining, adding, bringing the proofs forward like Allama Nimawi done here, inshallah. So what type of madhabs existed? Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, one of the teacher of Imam Abu Hanifa, he had a madhab. And majority of the Hanafi madhab is according to Ibrahim al-Nakha'i's madhab. Majority of the Hanafi madhab is according to the madhab of Ibrahim al-Nakha'i. He was a Kufan. He was a Kufan scholar. Sufyan al-Thawri, a lot of the fiqh rulings of Sufyan al-Thawri and Imam Abu Hanifa is like this. Okay? Sufyan al-Thawri, he had a madhab of himself. Imam al-Awza'i, he had his madhab in Sham, in Damascus, Syria. He had his own madhab there in Damascus. Slowly it died out. In fact, Imam al-Awza'i's madhab, it stood right to Andalus, right to Spain. It went up to Spain, but then the Maliki madhab came and smashed it out, basically, more or less. Okay? Abu Thawr, he had his own madhab. These names pop up in Tirmidhi. If you read Imam Tirmidhi and his footnotes after the hadithis, after the couple of hadithis in that section, he'll mention some of the scholars that had this view according to this hadith. So Abu Thawr, he had his own madhab. Ishaq bin Rahawai, he had his own madhab as well. He was a great scholar of hadith. Very famous. Ustads of Imam Bukhari. Waqi' ibn al-Jarrah, the ustad of Imam Shafi'i, he had his own madhab. Waqi' ibn al-Jarrah, one of the greatest scholars. Layth ibn Sa'd, many of the scholars said he is more knowledgeable than Imam Malik. Layth ibn Sa'd, okay? He was based in Makkah, whereas Imam, and then Egypt, I think, if I remember correctly. And Imam Malik was based in Medina. But whereas the students of Layth didn't continue his knowledge. Whereas Imam Malik's madhab, his students continued their knowledge. That's why we have the full Maliki madhab, alhamdulillah, in Mauritania, in Tunisia, in Morocco, in Algeria, and all those other places, alhamdulillah. This is a great ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why, many people say, why is it four? Why is it four? Many people like to question things, Why four? Why four? Why not five? Why not six? Why not seven? Why four? We don't know. Ultimately, we don't know why four. It's Allah's wisdom why He preserved these four and not any others. Ultimately, that's the clear-cut understanding. But there are fours in the Sharia. What type of fours? Out of all the books that were revealed, 4 books are the most well-known books. The Quran, the Zabur, the Torah, the Injil. Isn't it? Out of all the angels, millions and millions of angels that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created and creating. Even now, even right now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating Baytul Ma'mur continuously. 70,000 go around, make tawaf, and these 70,000 never return. Never ever return until the day of judgment. They'll never ever return. And He keeps on making another 70,000, another 70,000, another. Each, Allah has a purpose for every single thing that He does. Don't you think Allah has a purpose for you and me? 100%. 100%. Anyway, so 4 angels, 4 books. There were many angels. There were many books, many heavenly books, many divine books. But these 4 are more than any others. 4 Khulafa al-Rashidin. Khulafa'ur Rashidin, why 4? Why not 3? Why not 2? Why not 5? 4. Allah chose 4. Divinely. Allah knows why. You know? Why isn't Hassan radiallahu anhu included amongst the 4? He was within the 30-year span, wasn't he? Why isn't he included amongst the 4? Allahu alam. Allah knows why. You know? The months. Only 4 months are sacred months. All the other months are not sacred. You understand? Why Allah chose these 4 months? Allah knows why. Ultimately, Allah knows why. But we have a correlation of 4 in many things. In many things. So for you to question why 4, that's not a correct question, to say the truth. Then, Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, those who know Tafsir al-Tabari, he had his own madhab as well. He died out again. Dawood al-Zahiri, he had his own madhab. Literalist madhab. Absolute literalism in hadith. Complete literalism in hadith. Okay? But even him, the most literalist of all literalists, even him, when it came to Aqidah, he said, look, literalists are anthropomorph, meaning mujassim, absolute mujassim. Even him, even the person that was the most literalist when it came to hadith, when it came to the verses and the hadith that related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sifat, immediately he said, all these hadith and all these Quranic verses are from the ambiguous. We do not comment upon these. We do not believe them on the literal value, not the ma'na al-haqiqi, as the Saudis say, okay? Not the ma'na al-haqiqi. Even Ibn Hazm, even Dawood al-Zahiri as well, okay? He's got a huge book, Firaq, on Firaq Batila. Okay, the ulama, they had a consensus on following one of the 4 madhabs. Ibn Khaldun, he writes in the Muqaddimah. His Muqaddimah is studied in every single university. Go to SOAS University, go to Cambridge University, go to any top-notch university, there Ibn Khaldun's Muqaddimah is studied. Okay? Ibn Khaldun's Muqaddimah is studied. In that Muqaddimah, he passed away 808, so approximately 700 years ago. Okay? Ibn Khaldun, one of the greatest historians. He says, presently, the madhab of Ahlul Zahir has come to an end due to the extinction of its followers. And this is 800 years ago. This is 700 years ago he's speaking. That the madhab of Ahlul Zahir, this literalist movement that occurred, has completely become extinct now. Ulama made radd upon them. Ulama refuted them. Say, look, this is not the way of Islam. Okay? Hadiths are not taken on face value always. Sometimes they are, majority times they are, but sometimes there's more inner meanings. And that has to be assessed before accepting. Allama Tajuddin al-Subki, one of the greatest scholars, he lived in the 7th century. He died 777. He was a student of Ibn Taymiyyah as well. And then he moved away, okay, because of many things that he saw in Allama Ibn Taymiyyah. Not to say that Allama Ibn Taymiyyah was not a scholar. He was a great scholar. He was a great scholar of the Hanbali madhab. Okay? Not to say Allama Ibn Taymiyyah was not a scholar. He was definitely a scholar of one of the great scholars in the Hanbali madhab when it came to Hanbali fiqh. In Aqidah, he has his issues. In Aqidah, yes, he does have his issues. He went against the vast majority. He went against the mainstream ulama of the time. And he went against the first seven centuries of Islam. Okay, in many fatwas, like the 3 divorces in one place. That goes against all the majority of Islam. All 700 years of Islam, there is no opinion like that. No, it defeats the whole purpose of Islam. So he goes against ijma. So breaking ijma is a habit of these modern type scholars that are coming out, and this is a great fitna, because ijma is something which is agreed upon by all the scholars. It's a consensus, agreement by all the scholars of all madhabs. It's not just Hanafi madhab, the consensus of Hanafi. No, all scholars. So this becomes dangerous. It's part of usuluddin. Usuluddin is 4: Quran, Sunnah, ijma, and qiyas. So if you're continuously breaking ijma, then what religion are you following? You understand? Ulil amr is ijma. Ulil amr, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ati'u Allah, ati'u Rasul, wa ulil amr is ijma. Ijma and qiyas. Okay, ulama say in that tafsir of the verse, ijma and qiyas. So ijma and qiyas are part of deen. If you cut it off continuously and break ijma continuously and try to say, was the ijma, is the ijma, has there been ijma? Like for example, Mahdi. Imam al-Mahdi, he's been reported in so many ahadiths. If you put them all together, they are mutawatir, ma'nawi. None of the scholars rejected it. If a person rejects it, he goes upon the lines of kufr. Do you understand? He goes upon the lines of kufr because he's rejecting something which is unanimously narrated, transmitted in such a way that you cannot reject. That you cannot reject. You know, it's coming so many nusus, it's coming so many texts that you cannot reject. If a person rejects, then he puts himself on the brink of kufr. Okay? He'll be labeled as a fasiq. He'll be labeled as an open transgressor against the religion. If a person rejects Imam Mahdi, because of the amount of texts that have come in that regard. So Imam as-Subki says, and these four madhabs have, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reached consensus in their beliefs, besides a few amongst his followers who joined the deviant sects of i'tizal and tajsim. I'tizal is those rationalists, and tajsim is those who made Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into a body. Okay, this we spoke about. The vast majority of the followers are upon the truth and confess to the beliefs of Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi. This is why we study Aqidatul Tahawiyya, and we are made to memorize it in our madrasa, in our madrasas. Aqidatul Tahawiyya is something which is agreed upon, whether you're Shafi, whether you're Maliki, whether you're Hanafi, whether you're Hanbali, it doesn't matter. Everyone, whether you're Salafi, even if they go against Imam Tahawi. Even if they go against Imam Tahawi, then they make excuses on those parts which go against them. Even them, they have to study Aqidat Tahawiyya, because this is a book that's ijma. All the ulama study upon this. This is the beliefs of Islam.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Stop there. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.
Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله